There we go. Oh, huh. All right. That was that was a moment. That was a moment. Hi everyone. Welcome to the Thursday temperature check. I'm gonna have to edit so much out at the beginning there. My name is Ben Klein. I'm the Chief Recipe Officer for Proposal Industry Experts, the owner of Geek Proposals, and I personally think an all around nice person. Rochelle is still on her amazing conference tour of the SMPS universe. It's been fun. It's been exciting. I think that she's having a blast. Full disclosure: we are gonna nerd out on data inside this this cast. So I want to give that qualifier right out of the front. If you are listening to this on a podcast, go check us out on YouTube or on LinkedIn, because there are some visuals that go along with this. Not a lot, but we're gonna nerd out, and I'm gonna make a request of the community. I'm looking I'm looking for help, and I'll be posting this in the Disco community after this goes live, because the idea is I do need some help. But first off, we're going to talk about our old friend ChatGPT, or the LLM interface. So, I mean, you've had this. Hopefully, you are familiar with some of the others. There's Claude .ai, and there's Gemini. Oh, happy Thursday, Ben. Thank you. So very friendly today, right? There's Gemini. If I could spell, it would be fantastic. Um, Anyways, there's Gemini. There's all sorts of these, but this is the basic commercial level interface, and it's not one that it's one that we're probably all used to dealing with. If I could, I would bring up Copilot as well, to show you that. But like Copilot largely is ChatGPT reskin with Microsoft, with some internal data controls sometimes. So it's not too crazy. Anyways, but we're all very common to this. I don't know if you guys do this, but now whenever I see someone bring up a ChatGPT screen, I do look at like what active chats they have on their side, because it's very curious what they use ChatGPT for. I should probably do like more effort on like hiding this from you, because who wants to know that I am thinking about OneDrive version control, or slow cooking chicken tips, or an animal thumbs up, or corn snake project questions. These are the things that have been driving my ChatGPT usage. Anyways, so the way ChatGPT often works, you type something in here and it responds to you, right? And um, whether you know it or not, like the 4.0 version of ChatGPT has what's called a 300,000 token limit inside a conversation, and what that means is that when you upload largest documents, sometimes it'll give you that notification, hey, this document is too large. But for the most part, it isn't actually reading the document in full. And this is around the RAG model that is used in the LLM to like parse data and manage data. And so the idea is, I know if you're like me, you have used it probably in the procurement space to like upload an RFP or something like that. Hopefully like behind like some sort of protected wall for OPSEC, but you've used it to kind of summarize or read review. If you open a document right now in Adobe's AI will say, this appears to be a long article. Would you like us to summarize it? When you put something in Google Drive, it's like, would you like us to write notes about this document using Gemini and stuff like that? Like all of these tools are attempting to like help you parse data a little bit better. And what you have to realize is it's unlikely that it is fully reading this document. It is unlikely that it is doing everything. Um, and now you can get some interesting insights to it, but more and more people are showing, if you're reading some of the literature, that their prompts are actually like driving the bias that is inside the tool. So we kind of talked on this last week, and is that as the prompting in the legal firm got more efficient, what was happening is they were driving bias that maybe they didn't understand. Like they knew what their bias, what their thought process was around their bias, but they didn't know how OpenAI, or sorry, in this case, Copilot, was responding to that bias inside their prompts. And so when you are looking at large data sets, your prompts may be changing this, not this, the response that you would get from like ChatGPT's interface. So why is this important? Typically, you are going to be unlimited or unable to like look through really, really large data sets. Like there is still value for like the AWS data storage and stuff like that of like these large data sets. And there are massive companies out there like Palantir, for example, that like are able to like sort through really, really massive data sets and find interesting insights and stuff like that. And they use their own internal AIs and stuff like that to kind of like look through that. But we as a consumer are not necessarily able to do so. And so we would have to like rely on like a DBA, like a database admin, or someone who has a good understanding of like how to structure data and how to query it, more importantly, to like get insights from large data sets. So the reason I bring this up is I have always been very curious about the insights that we can find in procurement. So um, I don't know if a lot of you are aware of this, but almost every country produces like some sort of data storage area where publicly available data is made ready for us and stuff like that. And you see these used in academic studies all the time, where they're like, oh, like the Bureau of Census, or sorry, the Census Bureau has produced like this information, and we know this about families and everything like that. And I have always been fascinated about the idea of like, one, is there a way to commercialize this data? Sorry, I am a business person. But two, is there insights that are valuable to our community around this, right? Like, so for example, if you go to the Canada Buys site, there is like a data download. And I am actually sitting on data both from Canada Buys, from sam.gov, from the open data source from the UK government. But yeah, like I have these like very, very large data sets, but I can't put them into ChatGPT. I will show you why. As a CSV file, it's kind of funny. Like typically, CSV files are very small. They're really just characters. Like this is a large one. It has 10,000 records in it, and it's 884 kilobytes. Conversely, um, procurement data for the government of Canada from 2009 to 2022, just the tenders that were offered, i.e., the tender notices, that file alone is 557 megabytes of CSV data. Like the record is just massive. And so the idea behind that, oh, I am not showing you that screen. Hold on. Let me represent, share screen, hit allow, share this window. Huh. Still not showing it. Uh, I want to share the entire screen. Hmm. Hmm. Okay. All right. Uh, Let me show this. All right. Nope. Still not showing it. All right. Hmm. If I pull it down, nope. Still doesn't show. All right. One last try. I promise I'll get it this time. Allow. Yeah. All right. Great. So this is the CSV files, and as you can see, as I was saying before, like this file right here on Radical Proposals, which was a name of a company that I was thinking of making, it has 10,000 records in it. It is 884 kilobytes. A pull from one of my Ombud clients, 1.9 megabytes. Some Excel data that we got from like a whole series of like procurement events for the last 2 years, 3 megabytes. But like the Canadian procurement data, for example, just from 2009 to 2022, so this is 13 years of procurement data, just the tender notices is 557 megabytes. Like it is just a massive file. And so because of that, um, what ends up happening is that if I put this into ChatGPT, it kind of coughs and says, "Hey, this is impossible for me to parse," right? And so recently, someone else has been thinking about this problem, and I can't talk about it too much. They have given me alpha access or beta access to a tool that is not commercially released yet, but it turns data management on its head for the LLM. So one of the challenges, of course, of like a regular database is that they use almost like a coding structure for how you build queries and stuff like that. And now you can go into a tool like Power BI or Tableau. These are what we call data intelligence tools, and you can write something in roughly plain language, and it will generate a report for you. But the data has to be structured somewhere, and so you have that issue of like you already have to have structured data for it to be able to do that. The other issue is if you don't have structured data, or if you do have structured data, is that you need to think about like a way to make that query and stuff like that. And so this tool tries to address those concerns, and the way it does it is by allowing you to use the front end LLM to write what you want in plain language. So, for example, maybe I have all this procurement data and I want to compare like procurement volumes between these three data sets, like between Canada, between the US, between the UK, in over a specific period of time. Like, hey, what was the procurement volume in each of one of these countries? And maybe that'll generate some insights for me and stuff like that. Or maybe I want to be like, hey, LLM, like go to the web and find all the data about the various regions or provinces or states within these countries. Identify ones that have like large procurement versus small procurement, and like let's try to burrow down. And don't worry, I'm getting to a point with this. And so then it would write that database query like from a kind of a Microsoft Access level, and then it would query the database that is already on my computer. Like it would send a very small portion to the LLM. It will give an idea, like here's a snapshot of the data that I have available. You LLM, think about a way to like find these insights within this data. And then you write the query that is necessary to like actually run on my computer to pull that data up. And then once the data is pulled up, you can then use the LLM to like answer additional questions about it. Like you can query it a little bit more and stuff like that, or even ask for a new query to be started and everything. So it's a very interesting tool in that it doesn't force like you to send 557 megabytes somehow over to ChatGPT in like 50 million chats. Instead, what it does is it creates a situation, and I apologize if I'm losing some of you. It creates a situation where the LLM is basically just helping you. It's like a little light database assistance on your shoulders, kind of like saying, here's what you should write, kind of thing. And then it's giving you like suggestions on like the questions you can ask. And so it's a very interesting way of looking at information. And so I have been desperate to run a project on this. And I hate to say it, the current administration in the United States has given me uh, has given me a real a real insight, or not insight, but it has given me a real opportunity. So the idea behind it is this: if you are a director of a proposal firm, or you are a small proposal shop like myself, you actually don't know from year to year how many bids you're going to work on. You go to your sales team and you're kind of like, hey, what's your pipeline look like? Right. And they're going to give estimates and stuff like that. But we all know that like timelines slip. Major clients are like, hey, we're not ready internally, and we do it. Or they suddenly have this like driving need and they put something on the books. Or there's just like, hey, we totally forgot about this client, but they have an RFP that we really want to go after and stuff like that. And so it is really hard for you as an organization to kind of like evaluate what it is. And I want to think about this though in different terms. I want to look at these large data sets and then contrast them to one, political parties in power, and two, major financial events, and see if there's some sort of correlation. And I know correlation is not causation, I get that. But is there some sort of correlation between like major events? Like, for example, um, if we see like, for let's take 2008 for example, major major economic event that occurred. Did procurement, like if we are in the midst of that event, or if we know that such an event is coming, what should we expect from procurement? Is government spending going to go up, i.e., there will be more contracts that are coming out? Is government spending going down? Are companies nervous? Like, do we see a rise in commercial transactions versus no versus government transactions? Like, I'm just curious if there's something to do to that, and also like maybe even if we know like what kind of government is in power, like if we could rate a government roughly as like fiscally conservative, or you know, or something, like is there a specific type? And my guess is that like it's muddled, it's mixed. I doubt there are like super clear data sources, but I am curious about doing it because I think it would be a great tool for our community to have, in that if they wanted to be able to kind of predict what was going to happen and know like what their workload was looking like in a year's time and everything like that. I think, and once we get there, once we have those data sets kind of in place, like what other things can we find? So this is the project, and I'm going to put it into our new Disco community, because I do want some help with it. So what I have right now is 50 years of tender notices and awards in Canada. I have roughly the same data, though slightly different structure, for the US government. I also have the same data roughly again from the UK. So 50-ish years, though with the UK it's a little bit lighter, of data and of just government tenders. Now, commercial data is a little bit harder to acquire, but I have been working on some inroads there. There are some public reports that are published on commercial public procurement, but like the data set is not as clean. But I will incorporate it as much as I can. Now, what I'm trying to do though is I am thinking that my supposition is the three major like financial events that I can use as like foundational events are probably 2008, the massive housing crisis and the collapse of Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns and everything like that, and then COVID, I think, and kind of like the years after COVID, like the huge governments like spending of money and stuff like that, and then seeing what occurred afterwards, and then maybe even like, and not the Trump tariffs right now, but like looking back to another event or something like that a little bit further out. I actually don't know. Like, I'm not familiar enough with what happened before 2000. Like, I graduated in 95, and I can't remember during my teenage years a major financial event because my mom was always stressed about money. So I don't really know. I don't really know what would have been a major financial event, but I'm sure that I can look that up. But anyways, but maybe using those events, so then I would just need specific data on like the government spending, and one of my clients suggested to me the Bureau of Economic Analysis by the US Department of Commerce. I'm going to take a look at this data set. But if anyone knows of other areas where there's open data available on economic analysis, I would love that. I suspect that Canada has roughly the same data source, and probably the UK as well. And the reason, again, that I'm using these three countries is just because I'm familiar with them. And I also know that where I can get the data, and the data is in the English language, which allows me to not have to like solidify across. It is not being me being exclusionary, but again, if you know where this data is available somewhere else, let me know, and I can give it a shot, because again, it would be fun to try this project on even larger and larger data sets. Now, the next piece that I need though is who are the political parties in power, and not just in power like at the head of government, but kind of all the way down. It would be nice to see whether like kind of like political party historically by like region. So whether that be provinces in Canada or states in the United States, or somewhere else. And then maybe even, I doubt we can get it as far down as municipal data because that seems really, really crowded. But I would be curious if anyone can help me kind of figure out, is there a way to like look back historically and find this data in a nice, easily downloadable format? And then the good news is with this tool, I don't have to sort it. I can use it as blob data. Um, and then we can write our queries. And I would be happy to like, what I would like to do is publish the results and see if there is some understanding that we can find about like whether, with this very simple question of just answering, if there's a major financial event, what should we expect from the economy, or not the economy? What should we expect in the terms of like procurement volume? Because people always need to buy things. But the question is, do prices get decreased? Do people do less RFPs? Like anecdotally, I think that we can guess at these things, but it would be nice to actually see that backed up with data. Because then I think that there is a real option looking at like the current tariffs that are happening in the United States. That is probably going to ripple out for a year or two. So the question is, in 2026, are we going to be seeing more procurement data, or not more procurement? Are we going to see more or less procurement necessarily, like with the change? And it's just because the U.S. is such a global superpower in the consumer area. Like, how is that going to ripple out and affect all of us? Are we going to be looking at a very heavy year in 2026, or is it going to be very light for us? And if it is light, what are we going to be doing to like justify our like, there are knock-on questions that come from this, but the first step is kind of in starting the data. And so that's the project that I want to like put out to the community. And I know that I have tried in the past to do group projects with all of you, and it has always been a little bit of a struggle. Because maybe the project doesn't interest you. So you let me know. I'm going to post this in Disco. Let me know if you want to help. I am totally interested in maybe forming a small committee. I will get NDAs out so that you guys can see the tool in action, and see it roll and everything like that. I would love to, like, we could just do like a quick 30-minute hour Twitch stream or something like that. Who knows, right? Not Twitch actually, because that's too public. But like we can do like an internal meeting or something like that, where we try to gather this data, and then I think the idea is the goal would be for us, for the Pi community to be able to give to its members sort of an understanding of like what they're looking at. And I realize these are tumultuous times. There is a lot happening here, but I think that there's an opportunity here to maybe make some predictions, and then we can revisit this in 2027 and see if we're right. So oh, and so we have Steven here. It is really interesting as the tariffs are supposed to push for more US based manufacturing. I don't see how we can even fix it by building more warehouses, etc. quickly. It'll take years to build the infrastructure. It's so true. So the humorous part is I was listening to a guy this morning who is on the Jon Stewart show, the Jon Stewart podcast, which is called not last week, tonight. That's what is it? What is Jon Stewart's the weekly show? The weekly show with Jon Stewart. And so Come Back America. Rory Stewart is a UK. He was a former UK parliamentarian. He runs an NGO right now, and he has been involved in the UK military. He has worked very closely with the US government on things in Afghanistan and everything like that. And he says he's like, the rest of the world is very confused about the Trump tariffs because ostensibly it says like Trump is trying to say four things, or the administration is trying to say four things. I should stop saying Trump because it's not necessarily him. But one, the first thing is, hey, we're doing tariffs because we want to bring back manufacturing. Okay, great. That means the tariffs are long term. But then he also says, no, the tariffs are a negotiation tool for us to get greater leverage in and like equalize our trading partners more effectively, because we see ourselves as having unequal trade deals. The difficulty with those is those are a little bit contradictory. Like, if you want to get manufacturing back, for that to be back, the tariffs have to exist long term for us to be able to build manufacturing like in a reasonable amount of time and see the value of that investment. If it's just a negotiating tool, then that means that by default it's going to go away at some point. And this is not. And then he also says that he wants the tariffs, he wants the tariffs to he wants the tax revenue from the tariffs to support like some of the initiatives that he's trying to create and stuff like that. Well, if that's the case, then you are expecting the tariffs to exist for a long period of time, and then you don't want U.S. manufacturing to like be making more goods because you want the money from the tariffs to pay for your for your official initials. So again, now we have like three things that are not necessarily agreeing with each other. And then Roy had a fourth one, which was also just hilarious. So the weekly show with Jon Stewart. Um, just listen to this guy. He is hilarious. But like it is just this interesting thing that like they are trying to accomplish like three goals or four goals in this case with the tariffs that don't seem to necessarily align. So I agree with you, Stephen. I'm not 100% sure. But what we do know is that the effects of this administration are going to cause global partners to like run around and search for things a little bit. Like there's definitely uncertainty in people's partnerships with the United States. And we as Canada are seeing our currency like humorously, we're rising in comparison to the United States, but we are going down globally a little bit. Not a lot currently, but because we are seen as like very dependent on the United States. So I know that it's going to ripple out in Canada. I suspect it's going to ripple out in the rest of the world as well. And it would be curious to see what we could expect of procurement in the future. Our company is going to be a little bit more nervous. Like, is it going to be a super busy 2025, for example, because everyone's trying to like shove through their deals before the economy gets a little bit more chaotic? Or do they think that, hey, things are going to be settling down? And so they're like, hey, we'll just wait for midterms and then we'll put out all our bids and stuff like that, in which case maybe procurement gets really soft and light for us. But I would be curious if we could like speculate on that based on past data. And I realize that we are in unprecedented times, but I think that there's an opportunity here for us to do something. Anyways, I'm going to post this in Disco. It will be considered, I'll call it something very interesting, like the Pi Data Project or something. But long and short is I am looking for these sources and I'll post the questions that I actually want answered. And then, yeah, if you're interested in getting involved, let me know because I think this would be a fun project for us. And I would love to show you a different type of AI tool that is not necessarily that again might become commercially available as a way for you to like expand the value that you provide to your company. All right. Anyways, hope you are all in good shape for your bids for the weekend. I know that I'm actually traveling next week, so there will be no temperature check next week. I think Rochelle and I are both like bombing around. Um, but yeah, we will follow up the week after with updates that everything that Rochelle has seen from the SMPS conferences and all the things that are happening there. Anyways, you all stay safe out there. Be wonderful. You're all amazing human beings. Appreciate you so much. And yeah, you all have a great day.